A former model who appeared in Playboy and Penthouse is now having to pose for a mugshot after Los Angeles officials say she lured older men out on dates and then robbed them. That's the accusation. After months of encouraging Southern Californians to be on the lookout for her, the DA now says she'll finally have to answer for her alleged crimes. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so we first told you about 28-year-old Adva Lavie, who sometimes uses the stage name Mia Ventura, last fall. Now, Los Angeles County law enforcement apparently put out a bulletin with what appears to be her driver's license photo, as well as these details about the car she drove, a black Porsche SUV, a white Mercedes-Benz sedan. But now we're getting new details from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office about Lavie's alleged crimes and when she could face a judge and jury. So, according to the DA's office, between 2023 and 2025, Lavie is accused of using dating apps to cultivate relationships with wealthy older men and younger women, all in the Westlake Village, West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Beverly Hills areas, that she allegedly gained access to their homes by posing as a girlfriend or a travel companion, and then she's accused of stealing cash and gold and high-end designer items. So she has been charged with 6 felony counts right now. 2 counts of unauthorized use of personal identifying information, 2 counts of grand theft, 1 count of first-degree residential burglary, 1 count of first-degree residential burglary with person present. Los Angeles DA Nathan Hochman said in a statement, quote, "At her trial, we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant exploited trust built through online relationships to gain access to victims' homes and steal from them. Her ability to deceptively influence others, whether in person or online, has now come to an end. Our office is committed to holding accountable anyone who uses deception and manipulation to prey on others." And according to the DA's office, Lavie faces up to 11 years, 8 months in state prison if she's convicted on all those counts. So it's really, the stakes are high. She's entered a not guilty plea. She's scheduled to be arraigned at the Van Nuys courthouse on April 6th. For now, she's out of custody with an ankle monitor. This is per the court docket. She's been ordered to stay away from the alleged victims in this case. And apparently, it's not just Southern California where Lavie is accused of running her schemes. According to reporting from ABC7, police reports have been filed against Lavie in Nevada, Florida, France, Italy. One of the first people to speak publicly about Lavie's alleged sticky fingers was a podcaster named Michael Sartain, host of Access Vegas. He told Los Angeles news outlet KTLA that Lavie was a guest of on an episode of his show, and at some point, according to him, Lavie went into the green room and stole the credit cards and the cash from the purses of all the then female panelists. She then apparently returns to be part of the panel, and that she was, quote, cool as a cucumber. Told ABC7, quote, she basically sits there for 90 minutes having stolen everyone's credit cards and everyone's cash out of their purses in the green room, just the female guests, and just sat there, cool as a cucumber, just talking about the election while she had everyone's stuff in her purse just sitting right behind her. Now, one of the women who was allegedly victimized told KTLA that Lavie tried to charge multiple things to her stolen American Express credit card, including an expensive hair appointment at a Beverly Hills salon. The victim did some investigating apparently on her own and says she found out that Lavie had allegedly booked the appointment under the name Mia Ventura. Another alleged victim spoke with the Los Angeles Times back in December about her experiences with Lavie. Quote, Amber Karis Bassick, an international lingerie and swimwear model, she told the Times that Lavie befriended her, invited her on an all-expenses-paid trip to Ibiza, but that all-expenses-paid part turned out to be too good to be true, because Bassick claims that when she got to the hotel, it wasn't paid for. So she had to pay more than $2,000 to check in. And then when Lavie shows up, she was being followed by a taxi driver who was demanding to be paid. Now, Lavie apparently told Bassick that her American Express wasn't working in Europe, so Bassick would have to pay the driver. From there, Bassick claims they would be out all night trying to attract older men to pay for their food and their drinks. She also claims that Lavie would take photos of men's credit cards. Quote, I thought this trip was a girl's trip to make content, but for Lavie, the whole trip was just to use me to attract her next victims. All she wanted to do was hunt for rich older men. Hey, by the way, we're well into 2026, and I will tell you, it feels like each day AI is getting more efficient at our jobs, right? So the question is, are you just going to watch this shift happen, or are you going to learn to win from it? I'm going to let you in on a product that is completely free and has changed the lives of millions of AI learners. Outskill. It is the first ever AI-focused educational platform, and they're hosting a 2-day AI mastermind training live this Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. This 16-hour AI training condenses the experiences of tech companies that built themselves up through the AI boom. Now, there are a lot of AI experts out there, but Outskill is genuinely interested in helping you make an impact at work and also increasing your earning potential. You'll learn to build AI agents to execute for you, automate workflows, connect tools, get a boost at work with the hours you'll save. You'll also get the AI Prompt Bible, the AI Profit Roadmap, a personal AI toolkit builder, and if you register right now, you'll get their 2026 AI Hack Book. This is a guide to AI shifts and steps to take to be prepared. Their 4.9 out of 5 Trustpilot rating proves they have a track record of impressing learners. So click the link in the description or scan the QR code and join our WhatsApp community to stay up to date. Now, Lavie herself has apparently responded to some of the allegations against her. The Daily Mail reached out to her after that special bulletin was released, and she said that she hadn't heard about the accusations until they called. According to the Daily Mail, Lavie told them over the phone, I think when you probably hang out with someone really powerful and someone really connected, if you piss them off, it's problematic because they can really bleep you over. But when the Daily Mail pushed for more details about this apparent scheme, she reportedly hung up on them. So what else do we know about her? What else do we know about Lavie? Well, she's appeared on the cover of Playboy, was chosen as the Penthouse Pet of the Month in July of 2023. 2022, a news release from Clubhouse Media Group announced that she was joining Honey Drip, which is kind of a rival to OnlyFans. And according to that release, Lavie is from Israel. She served in the IDF for 2 years. After her service, she worked as a flight attendant. This is again according to Clubhouse Media Group, but the COVID-19 pandemic grounded planes worldwide and she was laid off. The release says that she shifted her focus to growing her social media following and working as a model. What do we make of this? What can we expect? Philip Dubé is with us, former LA County Deputy Public Defender. Thank you so much for taking the time, sir. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Jesse. How are you?
Good. What do we make of these charges? Which were the ones, if you are defending her, you say, this is the ones I want to focus on the most, this is the one that I'm concerned about the most, or you say they group them all together, all or nothing?
Well, legally, I think the most serious charge is the first-degree residential burglary for several reasons. Number one, it can carry up to 6 years in state prison, and you'd have to serve 85% of it. Number two, she is not an American citizen. And under federal immigration law, it could be deemed to be an aggravated felony, in other words, a crime of violence, and it would render her deportable. So she would be on a one-way slow boat back to Tel Aviv. So as a criminal defense attorney, we have to not only protect their criminal legal interests under due process, but there's an extra obligation and an extra duty to protect their immigration status. So we have to do whatever we can to allow them to remain in the country.
Now, by the way, according to the court docket, she has hired private counsel to defend her, so it doesn't appear that she's going to be using a public defender. But either way, what are the first steps you would take in building a defense? Because I do wonder, what is the evidence they have against her, right? Do you think it's surveillance? Do you think it's what was allegedly in her possession? Was it the idea of, hey, we can track, let's say, credit cards to where they were purchased and, where they were used? I mean, what do you think they have against her right now?
First of all, she has very competent defense counsel. She's represented by Jeffrey Rubenstein. I believe his office is in Beverly Hills. And I've never met Mr. Rubenstein, but he certainly doesn't work for free. And by the way, I tell private attorneys this all the time. When you're representing any client charged with what we call a paper crime, meaning involving high finance, a lot of money, prosecutors can bring a civil forfeiture action and essentially disgorge you of your attorney's fees that you are paid if they can show that they came from an ill-gotten source. So if that money was taken by her and she used that money to pay her attorney could end up working for free. Now, having said that, if I were defending her, again, the first line of attack would be the residential burglary. In order to convict, not to hold her to answer to stand trial, because that's a probable cause standard, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she had the intent to either commit a felony or to steal before entering the home.
Right.
So right? So if
So
you
in other
don't
words,
have
if
that
she
kind
just
of,
went to the house, hung out, and then while she's there, she's like, "Oh, this looks nice," and takes it, that wouldn't be burglary?
as an afterthought, no, it is not. Assuming they can prove that you had that intent before you entered and you went there under the guise of just wanting to hook up, befriend lonely hearts, that kind of thing, well, then that might be enough circumstantial evidence to get her. But if it's a mere afterthought that she got there, they were having a good time, and then she starts looking around and she sees a really cool bracelet laying on a nightstand or a piece of jewelry or even a wad of cash, and then takes it, doesn't mean she's innocent. It just means it's not burglary.
So, Philip, again, what do you think would be the evidence? How would they prove it? Would it be there's a strength in numbers if you're talking about multiple alleged victims, multiple instances? Is that how you get to intent? Is that how you get to what maybe she was allegedly up to? Because again, it's kind of it's such an interesting case on so many different levels. But you think about the overlap of the charges, the overlap of the instances, and how you prove that intent factor.
Well, it depends on the charge. So, for example, if it's, let's say, unlawful access card use, meaning illegal use of credit cards, if she's using an alias, let's say at the time of purchase, she's lying about who she is, then that's obviously circumstantial of an intent to defraud or
That,
to
that's
deceive.
that's like unauthorized use of personal identifying information.
Correct. We call that a 484E out here. And it's a very common crime where you get a hold of either a mislaid or a stolen credit card. You try to pass it off as yours, make a purchase, but then you sign a bogus name on it, or you give some false circumstances as to how you got the card. That shows an intent to deceive and an intent to defraud. Now, as to burglary, certainly when you have sort of a group of victims who are coming in that have absolutely no nexus to one another, saying that this she devil has done this to me as well. She gets into my house under the guise of wanting to go out on a date, wanting to hook up, but in fact, she's rummaging through drawers when I run to the kitchen to pour her a drink. Or if I run to the men's room, she's opening up closets or going through my drawer, doing whatever, then that is certainly circumstantial evidence of an intent to steal. But what else does it prove? I think there's an argument to be made that circumstantially she had that intent before entry. You have too many people ganging up on her who have fallen prey to her to say no, that this was an after acquired intent.
What did you make of her statement, her alleged statement she made to the Daily Mail that she's being, it seemed that she was saying that she was being falsely accused, falsely targeted because she got on somebody's wrong side. Is that a defense? And then she hung up apparently when asked more about it, which, I mean, that's her right to do, but I don't know. I'm assuming that might come into evidence maybe, but also does it give you a kind of an idea about a defense there?
Depends on how credible she comes off. If she takes the stand and says, look, uh, I admit maybe I took advantage of people. I didn't like them after the first date. It didn't work out, but nonetheless, they showered and plied me with extravagant gifts. They wined and dined me. They're just sore losers that I wasn't interested, that I didn't want a second date. And I think there's an argument to be made that that's true. I mean, how many people hook up on these dating websites? The whole purpose is to date. It doesn't work out, so you move on to the next one, and hopefully you find your soulmate. Now, after a while, it's going to start to build and build and build, like building blocks of guilt, because you're going to have too many people saying that after or on the first date, she entered my home and ripped me off. So I don't think that that's necessarily a disgruntled sore loser or somebody who is regretting going on that first date. It sounds like somebody who is truly a victim of crime.
I think it'll be tough to get a fair and impartial jury in a case like this as a defense attorney because um, not that everybody would know about the case, but what she's accused of, how she appears, how she presents herself. I wonder if that could be tough, optics and also, these accusations, they can be tough. They can be tough to find a fair and impartial jury, right?
Well, all that really matters during jury selection is that you can get from the veneer panel that nobody has formed a final opinion. if nobody, despite what they may have read about the case or heard about the case, as long as they have not reached a final judgment or conclusion about her, I think you can find 12 jurors who can be fair and impartial. That even though we are so enmeshed in the true crime world every day, there are plenty of people out there just living their lives who have no idea who the heck she is.
Right.
And frankly, let's be honest, particularly here on the west side of LA and in the San Fernando Valley, where she's going to be tried, we have a large Jewish and Israeli community who might actually be sympathetic to her. I'm not going to necessarily call them woke or inclined to let people go merely because they are from Israel, but I think that there is going to be some common ground, if you will, and they might cut her some slack and never think that one of their own could ever do this.
I imagine jurors have to be asked, did you see her cover fold or did you ever watch her online? I mean, if that's really the service she was a part of, they are asked about that, right?
Course, and then the court can excuse them for cause. Because if you can tell during the voir dire process that they have formed a final opinion, that she is a vixen, a villainess, a thief, a conniver, a grifter, then because they have formed that final opinion based on media accounts, the judge is going to kick them for cause.
Okay. And by the way, do you think this is going to actually move forward towards a trial? I know you're not part of the case, you don't know all the evidence, but is this one of those situations where if you are dealing with more black and white evidence, if you can show I don't know all that they have, but if it's easy to show, or relatively easy to prove unauthorized use of personal identifying information, or you can, if there's surveillance footage or credit card receipts, what have you, is this a kind of case where you think a deal might be worked out, and what would a deal look like?
If I were representing her, and I have actually verified that she is not a US citizen, let alone have a green card or lawful status in the United States, I would try to work out a deal where she serves 364 days or less to a non-violent and to a non-aggravated felony under federal law. Because what that would do is, yes, she would be convicted and she would have a felony. She would be ordered to pay restitution, but it does not automatically render her deportable. So she would still have a right to a hearing in the immigration courts to preserve her right to remain in the country. That's how I would try to fashion a deal. Now, on the other hand, if she doesn't want to do any time and doesn't care about her immigration status, then you can either just plead her out and maybe get her straight probation to the burglary and off she goes, or you do the trial. But I can tell you now, given where she's going for her trial, if she's convicted, she's going to prison.
Two points about that. Why do you say that? I don't know that trial. And number two, I don't know that court. And two, you said federal charge. Aren't these state charges?
These are state charges, but when you are convicted of certain state crimes, it triggers federal immigration law.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. And federal immigration law defines certain types of offenses that render you deportable.
Gotcha.
For example, certain types of aggravated residential burglary where the homeowner is actually home at the time, we call it a hot burg. If the victim is actually present during the time of the burglary, it is an inherently dangerous felony.
Of course.
Because there's this assumption you could use violence to try to thwart the burglar, or that the burglar might try to use violence against the victim. So you're rendered deportable.
Why is that court? You said if she goes to trial in that court, she's looking at prison time. Why do you say that?
Well, I can tell you that just based on my experience in going to trial in the San Fernando Valley, when you don't take a deal and your exposure is almost 11 years, you're not going to get straight probation when you have this many victims. I mean, this type of ruse and this type of advantage that the defendant has taken over multiple victims who were vulnerable, who fell easy prey to somebody who was this cunning and manipulative, has to be punished. Otherwise, you will never deter this type of behavior. And at that point, her immigration concerns are going to be the least of her problems. She will be going to the big house.
Philip Dubé, love having you on. You break it down so easily for us to understand, especially California law and what happens out in Los Angeles. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
It was all mine. Be well.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.